This week, our topic when it comes to sin is the seven deadly sins. They're called the deadly sins because they're deadly. These sins kill the soul. When you think about what is death of the soul is slowly growing away from God. And each of these sins, when performed, one grows away from God spiritually. On the flip side, the opposite of the seven deadly sins are called the seven heavenly virtues. The reason they're called that is because every time you do this one of the seven heavenly virtues, you get closer and closer to heaven. You get closer and closer to God. So this week we'll be taking a look at each of the seven deadly sins. The first sin is pride. Pride, what is it? There's a great saying, I told you this a few weeks ago, is that pride is thinking so much about yourself, is putting yourself in these other situations that you don't belong in. The opposite of pride is humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking about yourself less. An individual who has a lot of pride, they'll insert themselves in situations they don't belong in. There'll be conflicts, there'll be conversations, there'll be all sorts of situations that they don't even belong in at all, but they'll always put themselves in it. They'll always put themselves and find themselves as the center of every single conversation. Whereas a humble individual, what they will do is they will step back. They will focus more upon other individuals, and they will truly focus upon the other. Pride is the chief of all the sins. So much so, St. Gregory the Great, whenever he composed his list of deadly sins, he didn't even put pride in it, because he saw pride as the chief or the father of all the sins. Pride is by far the worst of all the sins. When an individual has pride, it destroys the soul, it tears them down. The main reason being that it is the sin of Eve and Adam. It is the sin of the Tower of Babel. And Adam and Eve, the reason they reached for the apple, the reason they desired to have the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, was because they wanted to be equal to God. Humility says God is the greatest. I put God above all others. Pride says I want to be equal to God in one or more ways. The rest of the seven deadly sins, typically what they are is they're taking some sort of good that God has created and exaggerating or focusing on it to an unhealthy amount. You'll find that the other six, greed, envy, anger, lust, gluttony, sloth, they're usually getting our priorities all out of whack. And the way we combat these is focusing on the true priorities and getting our priorities straight. The first one we'll discuss is greed. There's a scene from the movie Wall Street. In this scene, the main protagonist of the movie, the anti-hero of the movie, is talking about how greed is good and how greed actually helps further along society.
The new law of evolution in corporate America seems to be survival of the unfittest. Well, in my book, you either do it right or you get eliminated. In the last 7 deals that I've been involved with, there were 2.5 million stockholders who have made a pre-tax profit of $12 billion. Thank you. I am not a destroyer of companies. I am a liberator of them. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA. Thank you very much.
When you watch this clip, one thing you've noticed is that what is the ultimate end goal of all this greed, of all this work? It's money. The thing about money and possessions, they're not actually evil in themselves. Money is not a bad thing. Owning things, owning property, owning objects is not a bad thing. Money, and we look at the Bible, it does not say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. When does the desire for greed, the desire for wealth, the desire for possessions, when does it become evil? It becomes evil when you're willing to compromise your morals. You're willing to do something bad in order to gain wealth or to keep wealth. And that is the heart of greed. Greed is not getting possessions. Greed is not being successful. Greed is I'm willing to compromise my morals. I'm willing to harm others in order to get what I want. All of these other six of these deadly sins, they take a good and they overfocus on it. And so with greed, what they're doing is you're focusing so much on the object, you're focusing so much on the wealth that you forget about the people. In life, people are the ends. We do things, we get the wealth, we get the possessions in order to help people, whether it be our neighbors, our family, our nation. But with greed, the reason we do all of these things, that we work so hard, is for the possessions in themselves. When the possessions become the end, our end goal, and not the means to achieve our goal, that's when evil happens. The next one is envy. Envy is whenever we look to others, either their qualities or possessions, and we want them. Envy is when we desire what other people have. It could be their looks, it could be their car, it could be their good sense of humor or how popular they are. It could be their house, it could be their intelligence. It's whenever we see something that someone else has and we desire it. Now, envy actually is supposed to be a good thing in that we see a good in another and we want to emulate and have that for ourselves. That's why God put that inside of us. Whenever envy becomes a bad thing, it's whenever we just start desiring things that don't make us better. Think about this. Your neighbor has a really good car. You envy it because you want the car. Will having that car make you a better human being? No. Let's say they have a really, really, really smart person. Will have that smarts make you a better human being? It might make you more knowledgeable, but morals and intelligence have nothing to do with each other. Let's say someone has a really, really good boyfriend or girlfriend. You want that boyfriend or girlfriend. Will having that boyfriend or girlfriend make you a better human being? No. What should you be envious of? The good qualities that you want to have. This person is such a pious person. I want to be like that because it makes you better. This person is so generous. I want to be like that because it makes me better. The true, dirtiest, most evil type of envy is whenever you want something just so the other person doesn't have it. I want their boyfriend or girlfriend, not because so much because I want that person, it's because I want that other person to be unhappy. I want their car not because I want it, but because I want them to not have the car. There's a scene from The Simpsons whenever Ned Flanders gets an RV and Homer Simpson, he goes in to try to buy an RV and he says the RV he wants any RV just as long as it's bigger and better than the one that Ned Flanders has.